Hey, this is Rachel Cunningham, and you're listening to Joyful Love, episode 83. If you're ready to bring joy and connection back to your marriage, stick around. Each week, I give you the tools to up-level your thinking, open your heart, and bring joy and fun back to your relationship. Because it's not enough just to stay married. We want to love being married. So this is the third time I've tried to record this podcast, and something keeps giving me a hiccup, whether it's my audio breaks or I can't figure out my lighting. Like last night, my husband and my son were watching the football drafts, which here in America, that's a huge thing, apparently. And apparently for my husband it is anyway. And they were watching the football drafts, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to record my podcast tonight, even though I don't normally work at nights. But I was like, I'm going to record it tonight. And then everything went wrong. And so I ended up hearing my husband and my son celebrating a certain football draft. Apparently they loved the Colts. My husband loves the Colts anyway. And they ended up getting a quarterback that they really wanted. So they were all celebrating downstairs. And I was like, what am I doing? Trying to work on technology. I'm going to go celebrate something I really don't care about with my husband. So that's what I ended up doing last night. I went down there instead of recording this to cheer them on. Anyway, and then this morning I was going to wake up early and do it, but my friend wanted to go out for a hike, and I was like, yep, that sounds like more fun. So I went for a hike. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I am still in my hiking clothes. I have a sweatshirt on. I haven't had a shower. I have a bun in my hair, or a messy bun in my hair. And my husband called and said, hey, do you want to go work at a coffee shop with me? And I said, absolutely, but I have to get this podcast recorded first. So that's the recording this episode saga. It's been an adventure, so I hope it's worth it for you. One other thing I wanted to mention, you'll notice like there's been a couple times in the series of this podcast, Joyful Love, that occasionally I will go to a every other week episode instead of every week's. So that's what I'm doing until the end of July. So you will not receive a podcast every week. You'll just get one every other week. So make sure to come back and look at them. Even if you're a weekly regular, just make sure to come back every other week and listen. It's a great opportunity too, if you're brand new, to use those off weeks to just go back and listen to some of the ones that you've missed. I have a client right now who's been with me for almost 6 months, and she said, I'm not even through your podcast yet. So once there gets to be several podcasts, it's nice to kind of give it a break, I think, a breather for me and for you to go catch back, or to go catch up on some of the ones that you've missed. So with that said, let's get into today's topic. So you guys know that I talk a lot about thoughts and feelings on this podcast. Our thoughts and feelings are what ultimately creates our results. So I do talk about those a lot. And I believe that your thoughts are the root of where your results in life come from. And no, I don't mean the results of what other people do. You're never in charge of what other people do, but I do mean the results that you create for yourself. The root of that is in your thoughts. But love needs a little bit more than thoughts and feelings, doesn't it? So today, we're going to talk about actions, because love is something that needs to be fed and nurtured, not just from our thoughts and feelings. That's a great start, but it also needs to be fed and nurtured through the actions that we take. So today, we're going to talk about being an action taker in your own life for the benefit of your marriage. So here's the thing. You can love and care about someone very deeply. And even though, you think about them fondly, and like when you're alone or in your own thoughts, you can think about them fondly, But if you're not prioritizing your relationship by showing them loving actions, then they might not know that you love them. And this can go both ways, right? I know there are several times in my life where I have just been busy and really not prioritizing my marriage. And so I haven't shown Chris love during those times. I haven't taken the actions to let him know that I really do care about him, even though I feel it in my heart. Right. And also it can go the other way too, right? When there have been times when Chris has been really busy and distracted and things, and he hasn't necessarily shown me the love in action form that I would like. So this can be for everyone. You could even listen to this with your partner and see if you can, both kind of start navigating. How can we take loving actions together? How can we have grace on each other when we are busy? But how can we also bring those times, even bring awareness to those times so that we can kind of remember, oh yeah, love is about taking actions too, right? And I think it's important to remember that expressing love and affection towards your partner through verbal cues and nonverbal gestures, that's what feeds your emotional intimacy. So if you're feeling like really emotionally disconnected, and you want to build on that communication, you want to build on the emotional feelings and things, like taking actions is a great start for that. Of course, it goes back to our thoughts and feelings again. But like taking actions is a great way to move toward that emotional intimacy that you want. So let's use this analogy for a minute. If your emotional connection is a garden, then kindness and physical touch and thoughtful gestures, verbal appreciation, these are just some of the actions that are the water and the sunshine that your emotional connection garden needs to grow, and it needs those things to flourish. Just like a flower garden needs water and sunshine, your emotional connection garden needs loving gestures and loving verbal expressions, right? And these acts of love not only increase emotional intimacy, they also help to create a sense of safety and security in your relationship, right? Just like those regular deposits, those regular times of nourishing your relationship, it helps your brain to strengthen and know that you are a bond together. It reminds you that you are together. It reminds you, it helps you to feel that closeness together. So in short, acts of love are what makes your relationship different than just being roommates. So with that said, I'm going to share with you 5 action skills that you can begin learning and practicing today. Okay, the first one is positive communication. Okay, positive communication goes 2 ways. You can begin with it, right, by welcoming in positive talk instead of negative talk. Like, for example, if you have a beef with your partner and you need to ask them about it, and you're like, okay, I need to bring this up. I need to let you know that I'm upset about this. Even when you're bringing up something that you want to, that seems negative, sandwiching the thing you want changed with a few positive things on either side goes a long way. So you can start with that positive communication. You can start with saying, how do I bring positivity to this communication? And then also, it's important to remember that positive communication is so much easier if other aspects of your life are in place. So the more physical touch, right? The more hugs, the more kisses, the more caressing, the more acts of kindness that you show your partner. Those kinds of things naturally fills your hearts with positive thoughts and positive feelings. And those positive feelings in turn lead you to have positive communication so much easier. So here's a great example. Last week, I was on my phone a lot. and I was really distracted from Chris for a few days. And he ended up calling me on it. He was like, Rach, it seems like you're not really in this conversation. You're not hearing me. And so I put my phone down and I said, you're right. I'm not. I'm sorry. And then we just went on with the conversation. There was zero negativity. There was zero criticism. Him calling me out did not lead me to guilt or shame or even shifting the blame to him. And I just said, okay, let's change that. And I put my phone down. So that's something that I was doing that he wanted to call me out on that ended up being a positive thing because neither of us went down the road of criticism or shifting blame. We just heard each other and said, okay. And then here's another one where I called out Chris on something. Just yesterday, I spent all day cleaning and catching up on laundry and making dinner. And I was super proud of myself because I've also had a hurt back. And so I was able to actually get up and move around and do some things. So I was like super proud of myself. And when Chris walked in the house a little bit later, he did not say a word. Y'all, I even lit candles around the house. The ambiance was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was clean. It smelled good. And when he walked in, he didn't notice. At least in my brain, I thought he didn't notice. Now, when I noticed my feelings, I noticed, oh, what is that feeling? It's like, it was a little bit of resentment popping up. Like I was starting to have the thought, he doesn't even care how much I do. You know, the thoughts, right? Like they creep in so quickly. So I ended up going to the bathroom like I do sometimes. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, girl, you did this for you, not for him. Don't let the fact that he didn't notice rob you of the joy that you felt 5 minutes ago. Right? Because I actually had fun cleaning all day. I spent 3 hours by myself listening to an audiobook, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Because he didn't say something in the first 5 minutes of seeing me, my brain immediately wanted to look for the negative and start criticizing, right? So that's why I took myself away from the situation for a minute so that I could just kind of like check in, do a little mental, emotional check-in with myself, remind myself why I cleaned in the first place. And then I walked out of the bathroom and I got on with my day. But here's where the positive communication comes in, even with something negative. I'm a big believer in sharing my thoughts with Chris. It's something that I'm really working on, making sure that he knows my internal world a little bit more, because I'm the kind of person who could do all the self-thought, the thought work, and the self-development on my own and never share true thoughts with Chris. So it's something that I really work on over the last several years of sharing my feelings and my thoughts with Chris, not in a critical way, but just in a way to let him know my inner world. To me, that's part of connection that I'm continuing to work on. So that night when we climbed into bed, I told him, babe, I know that you have a lot on your mind right now, but I just want you to know that I would really love it when you notice how hard I work and then verbally appreciate it. And so he did. He was like, oh my gosh, I did notice. And I just immediately got distracted. And then he gave me lots of praise and I was good, right? But I had to kind of remind him first. And, you know, that conversation could have gone so much differently, right? 10 years ago, either of these circumstances, either him calling me out for being on my phone too much, or me calling him out for not being appreciative. Either one of these might have ended in tears or shame or assumptions with guilt and criticism. But because we've been pouring loving actions into our marriage, our garden is so full of beautiful flowers that when we need to go in and pluck some weeds out, it's just a normal part of the process. And it doesn't leave our garden empty. It doesn't leave our hearts empty, right? We can pull some weeds out. We can say, hey, I need to mention this. I need to let you in on what I'm thinking. I need to ask you to stop doing that or ask you to start doing that. And none of it is negative. It's actually positive. That's what I want to welcome. Like, positive communication can be purposeful affirmations and gratitude and all the doting conversations on purpose, right? But it can also be welcomed in with something that could typically be viewed as negative. If you drop criticism and blame, welcoming in positive communication, even on things that you need to ask each other to do differently, is so much easier. Okay. So that was a long time on skill number 1 for loving actions, but I feel like positive communication is so important that it deserves it. So as often as possible, just use loving and respectful language, hear each other, listen closely, and then validate each other's feelings and perspectives when they come to you with a concern. Because if you're going to be married for decades and decades and decades, you need to be able to come to each other with concerns. Okay, the second one is relationship repair. Inevitably, conflicts and misunderstandings can arise in any marriage. Sometimes when you think something's going to just be a quick, positive conversation, it ends up going awry, right? This happens with everyone in every marriage, at least occasionally. And what you thought was going to be okay, just a little quick conversation, ends up in tears later. When it does, it's important to not ignore the situation, but to actually say, okay, this is an opportunity to go repair our situation, right? If you're thinking about the garden analogy, if a windstorm comes in and some things got broken, you might need to go and replant some flowers that got blown out. You might need to go in and prune a little bit, right? So this is just like, if you think about your garden and it's beautiful, if something comes in and tears it down, how are you going to repair it? There are many ways to repair, but like showing love and taking loving actions can serve as a powerful tool for repairing and resolving conflicts in a healthy way, right? When something is broken, it is time to make the time to help it to mend. So express genuine care. Slow down in this process. You don't have to rush to repair. You can slow down and say, I want to hear you. I want to understand you. Show empathy, and then offer forgiveness when conflicts arise. This is the way to begin restoring trust and strengthening your marital bond again. Okay, number 3. Let's bring in a little romance, shall we? Physical intimacy is an important part of most healthy marriages. Expressing love through physical touch and acts of affection helps to maintain the romantic connection between you and your partner. So the pleasure centers in your brain are very closely connected to the love centers. So physical touch helps to build a sense of closeness and passion and intimacy, which are essential components of a fulfilling and satisfying marriage. Okay, so that's an important step to take too, is like, where can we increase our physical connection? And it doesn't always have to be through sex. It can be through hugs and kisses and caresses, right? Okay, act number 4 to welcome into your life is emotional support. Showing love and taking loving actions also involves providing emotional support to your partner. It means being there for each other during both the good times and the challenging times. It means being empathetic and showing compassion to each other, right? Not rushing to tell someone how what they did was wrong and they should have done it this way and this way and this way. No, like, slow down, show compassion, offer that emotional support, right? And when you do so, that's another thing that helps to create that safe space for both partners to share their thoughts and their feelings and their concerns and it strengthens your emotional bond between you two. It becomes the more you can like offer emotional support to someone during some hard times or the good times, the more you're going to remember, oh yeah, we're a team. We are just a solid team that keeps moving forward. And if there's a mountain to climb, we've got each other's backs, right? So, okay, act number 5, admiration. Showing your partner that you love them through actions, including expressing appreciation, expressing admiration, actually telling them, oh, I admire this about you. I like that outfit on you. I like the way you look in those jeans. I love the way you are so kind to your mother. I love the way you work so hard for our family. I love the way you cook. Like all of the things, like just kind of think big. Start showing that admiration, right? And even like bringing in gratitude of like thanking your partner. And, sometimes it's as simple as pausing and looking at your partner. The other day, I'm going to share this one more little bitty story about Chris and I. The other day, I was standing at our kitchen sink. I think I was rinsing off some salmon, getting ready to make some dinner. And I look out the window and Chris is walking in and he looks in the window and he catches my eye and he just pauses and he smiles. And I pause and I smile. And I was kind of in a bad mood before that. And I was like, oh, like it doesn't take much, does it? Like just a smile can show so much admiration. So where can you smile? Where can you pause and smile and just look at your partner today, right? Like that, it's so important to find those little opportunities and see each other and see each other's goodness and see each other's worthiness. And then just offer a smile because you see their greatness in that moment. Sometimes it's as simple as that. I love all of these tips because it's not like when you think about taking actions, sometimes you can think about grand gestures, right? But no, like all of these tips are just small things that you can add throughout your day. They don't have to take up a lot of time, right? Appreciation is seriously the quickest way to water that marriage garden and to create a bond. Or sticking to the garden analogy, you're creating roots that run deep. Every time you throw appreciation in, those roots go a little bit deeper. Okay, that gives you 5 incredible actions you can begin implementing today. But remember, if you're trying to implement an action from a place of they're a lousy partner or I'm not good enough, and you're beating yourself up and you're beating them up, then you're not going to feel like taking that action. You're going to want to give up on it. You're going to want to find ways to criticize and cut down some flowers instead of watering them. So look at the thoughts that come up when you decide to take these actions. Really look at those thoughts, right? You knew I couldn't do a full episode on just actions. We have to go back to the thoughts too, right? So really look at the thoughts that come up when you think about taking loving actions. Get to know your thoughts and then be brave enough to question them. Okay? You got this. And I want you to know that I am right here, ready to help you apply these skills, the practical strategies and the mindset to make sure that you carry them through. Being a married woman is not always easy, y'all. It is my firm belief that every single married woman on the planet deserves to have support and help, to know how to create a healthy relationship and how to experience more joy and fun in this life, even if she's chosen to be someone's wife and someone's mother. Heck, especially if she's chosen to be a wife and mother, right? Okay, book a free consultation call with me, and we'll spend that hour diving in together into your relationship and how I can help you create a marriage that you actually love being in. All right, I'll see you on the call. Thanks for listening to Joyful Love. If you'd like to know more about my work, come visit me at rachelcunningham.com. That's Rachel spelled with an AEL, Cunningham.com.